Welcome to the kitchen table where the champions of all budget decks battle it out in the gauntlet for bragging rights and most of all for your viewing pleasure. You can also join in the fun and win some prizes like the secret layer. The only thing you need to do is to predict who the winner will be of the next match and leave it in the comments below. This match is between the Constructs and Living End. Bram, tell us something more about these decks.
The Construct Tribal deck is a graveyard artifact creature deck built around Scrapyard Recombiner, with cards like Foundry Inspector and Hangerback Walker. It also plays big constructs like Traxos, Scuttling Doom Engine and 3 powerful Gearhulks. Living End is a combo deck with a lot of cycling creatures in it. You cycle through your deck and get those creatures in your graveyard to then play a powerful spell like Electro Dominance or Finale of Promise to get Living End for free into play, getting all the creatures you cycled back onto the battlefield.
Round 1. Fight!
Constructs versus Living End. We are off and let's look at the hand of the Construct player. There we go, the first card we see is a removal spell in Oblivion Stone, and there's also a big Cataclysmic Gearhulk. That's a nice control card as well. Johannes' expertise in the hand of the Living End player with a lot of cycling creatures and some lands. Construct start with a Spire of Industry, and now the Living End player is also going to play a land, and this land is going to be flipped into play. It is called the Silundi Isle. Back to the Constructs now, they will play their second land. It's a Caves of Koilos, followed up with the Prophetic Prism. A card has been drawn, and back to the Crumbling Necropolis from the Living Ends. Fast game, Slayer Stronghold, followed up with a Chief of the Foundry, giving all artifact creatures +1/+1, and now we go back to the Living Hand player, but first we're going to cycle a Curator of Mysteries, discarding it and drawing a card. Back to the Living End player now, who has 8 cards in hand, but we can still play a land, so I think we're going to start with that. It's a Smoldering March, comes into play tapped, and then we will likely go back to the Construct player. There we go, untapping the lands. 4th land has been played. Let's see what the Construct player is going to do. Which robots will destabilize the Living End player? Which robot is next to come off the production belt? 2 mana has been tapped, and there is Steel Overseer, just a 1/1, but when you tap him you can give all other artifact creatures +1/+1. So a powerful little robot. Meanwhile a cycle, of course, and there's a Living End drawn. So the shenanigans can start. The combo is online, but first we need some more creatures in the graveyard. We need to cycle some more creatures. So let's see what the Living End player is going to do. She's taking her time, of course. It's quite a complex deck. It's a fun deck. Here's the Tolaria West that comes into the battlefield tapped. And now back to the Construct player. So another Steel Overseer is the draw. And the Construct player can sense that something is on. There's an attack. 4 damage has been dealt by the robots, and now Oblivion Stone. And this can be sacrificed for 5 mana, and then we'll destroy each non-land permanent without a fate counter on it, and for 4 mana we can put fate counters on permanents. So this is a little bit of a backup against the Living End combo. Of course we need 4 mana available. Meanwhile a Serpent is cycled away. filling up that graveyard quite nicely. 5th land has been played. And are we already going to see a living ant? No, we're going to see a flying fish that draws 2 cards. We all know him as Muldrifter. And that means the living ant player is going to the end step, discarding Waker of Waves, a big 7/7. Back to the constructs now. And now they have Oblivion Stone ready. They will attack, but first put a counter on both artifacts. So the Chief of the Foundry is now a 3/4. And will attack with the Chief. I think it's going to be a block of the Muldrifter. Living ant player doesn't mind that her creatures are in the graveyard, of course. Another cycling creature is the draw. And now we play Yeheni's Expertise. All creatures -3/-3, but the important thing is that we may cast a spell with converted mana cost 3 or less for free, and because Living Ant has no mana cost, we can cast it for free. So creatures will be dying from Yeheni's Expertise and will be coming back from the Living Ant. And that will be 4 creatures on the side of the Living Ant player. There's a Muldrifter, so 2 cards will be drawn. And some flyers and some big serpents also, so a very nice play by the Living Ant combo. A demon has been discarded at the end step because the Living Ant player had too many cards. Now let's see if the Construct player now has an answer. Of course, they have Oblivion Stone. So it looks pretty good. And the Construct player will pass the turn. There's another card drawn from the Living Ant player. And let's see. First the attack. But no, says the Construct player, Oblivion Stone will take care of all non-land permanents. So no more fun from the Living Ant. Now here is for 3 mana, Ashiok.
Remember and tremble.
And that's an annoying card because it can exile its opponent's library and meanwhile fill the Living Ant player's library. So that's going to happen. 4 cards are being milled. And I already see 2 creatures. And all the cards from the graveyard of the Construct player are now being exiled. And now for only 2 red mana, there's another Living Ant coming back because it's played with Finale of Promise. And because the Living Ant has no casting cost, it can be cast for only 2 mana because X is 0. And all these creatures are coming back into play. Even more creatures. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 creatures. The playmat is not big enough anymore. Ashiok needs to scooch over. Muldrifter will draw us some cards. Living Ant Engine is really online now. And that's crazy good. Doesn't really look good for the constructs though. But we can see the Living Ant combo really in effect. Let's see what the Construct player has in store to counter this. Oblivion Stone was already a nice answer. Now mana has been tapped. White mana has been tapped from the Caves of Koilos. Here is Cataclysmic Gearhulk. And when it enters the battlefield, each player can only keep 1 creature because all the other ones have to be sacrificed. So the Construct deals with a second Living Ant without a problem. Now the Waker of Waves will hang around. The Big Serpent is a 7/7 and Ashiok is also still there. Oh, the draw is another Living Ant. That was a lucky draw from the Living Ant player. because that means the combo is back online and there's still a lot of creatures in the graveyard. How is the living ant player going to play it? Is she going to attack first? Probably that would be the logical play. There we go. Waker of Waves, 7 damage. Cataclysmic Gearhulk is not blocking. And I see there's a refurbish in the hand of the construct player. Let's see what the living ant player is going to do. She now can play the living ant with a card called Electro Dominance, and that's an instant. First, some milling stuff by Ashiok.
My victory was but a dream.
Here is the Runes of Oran Reef, a little land that's nice in an artifact deck. And let's see if we're going to see some artifacts. Salvager of Rune comes into play. And that Bomat Courier is a hasty one. And now we're going to attack Ashiok, I think.
You do not get to know anything about me.
But wait, says the living ant player. Here is Electro Dominance for 4 damage to the player and a free living ant. There we go. No casting cost. Normally it can be played by suspending it. Now Galvanic Blast is going to the face of Ashiok, so the construct player will deal with the planeswalker, but now living ant will resolve. Maybe we'll sacrifice a Salvager of Rune. Doesn't really matter a lot, because Bomat Courier and the Gearhulk are now gone, together with the Waker of Waves. 4 damage from the Electro Dominance. But now all those creatures are coming back, and this is in the turn of the construct player, so it's going to be hard. Because they're tapped out, and refurbish would have been so nice to play it now with the Gearhulk. But we go back now to the turn of the living ant player. And she gets a huge army ready for the final blow. Drawing some cards with the Muldrifter for the 3rd time already. So Living Ant will take it down. Big attack.
Game over.
Nice first match.
Now you can join our leaderboard too by predicting who will be the winner of the next match and leave it in the comments below. Now if you want some more information about the tournament series, check out the link here. If you need some help predicting who will be the winner of the next match, check out the deck tech videos. And remember,
always keep it casual.